Hello, welcome to this Snuggle Sounds audio story, Billy Trumpet Bum. Find a nice comfortable place and strap in for the toot-tastical adventures of Billy and his melodious bottom. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to our channel to make sure you don't miss out on other fantastic stories. Yuck, Billy. Really? Chapter 2. Troublesome Toots. One sunny afternoon, the children of Whirlwindyville Elementary School sat cross-legged on the floor of the school hall. They were listening with bated breath to the principal, Mrs. Tightlips, reading a thrilling adventure story during the weekly story hour. The hall was as quiet as a mouse, the only sound being Mrs. Tightlips' voice, weaving tales of pirates and buried treasure. Billy was sat in the middle of the crowd, engrossed in the story. He loved story hour, loved losing himself in the tales of daring deeds and far-off lands. For a little while, he could forget about his peculiar problem and simply be a boy, swept up in the magic of stories. However, as we've already established, Billy's bottom had a mind of its own. It didn't care much for suspenseful moments or the quiet hush of a captivated audience. And so, just as Mrs. Tightlips reached the most thrilling part of the story, when the pirates were about to uncover the buried treasure, Billy's bottom decided to play its own tune. With a loud toot toot toot, Billy's flatulence took centre stage, drowning out Mrs. Tightlips' voice and replacing the tale of pirates with its own bumbling melody. The silence of the school hall was shattered, replaced by a sound that was strangely reminiscent of a trumpet fanfare. For a moment, everyone sat in stunned silence, their eyes wide. Then, as the reality of what had just happened sunk in, the hall erupted into laughter. The children rolled on the floor, clutching their bellies, their giggles echoing through the hall. Even Mrs. Tightlips, known for her stern demeanour, struggled to suppress a smile. As for Billy, he sat in the middle of the cacophony, his face as red as a ripe tomato. His wish for a quiet afternoon of stories had turned into an impromptu concert, courtesy of his trumpet-like tummy. But amidst the laughter and the embarrassment, Billy couldn't help but notice something. Despite the disruption, his flatulence had brought laughter and joy, turning an ordinary story hour into an afternoon to remember. It was a small consolation, but one that hinted at the extraordinary journey that was still to come. Life at Whirlwindyville Elementary was a daily challenge for Billy. His musical bottom made each day a symphony of mishaps and misadventures. At times, the toot-toot from his tummy would echo through the silent hallways, causing a ripple of giggles among his classmates and exasperated sighs from his teachers. Quiet activities were particularly perilous. Tests were a minefield, as Billy's bottom seemed to revel in the silence, often punctuating the calm with a sudden trumpet-like sound, causing his classmates to burst into laughter and earning him stern looks from the teachers. Even library time, which Billy loved for the chance to dive into a world of stories, was fraught with potential embarrassment. More than once, Billy's flatulence had shocked the stern-faced librarian, Mrs. Shush, causing her to drop her glasses in surprise. The school playground was no sanctuary either. Billy's classmates had taken to calling him Billy Trumpet Bum, teasing him with songs and rhymes about his flatulence. Billy tried to laugh along, to pretend it didn't bother him, but the constant teasing stung. He yearned to be known for something other than his musical farts. Yet, amidst the teasing and embarrassment, Billy remained steadfast. He didn't let the laughter and the names get to him. He knew he was more than just Billy Trumpet Bum. He was Billy Bumblebee, a boy who loved stories, who was kind and brave, and who just happened to have a bottom that played music. And no amount of teasing could change that. But school was just one aspect of Billy's life. His flatulence didn't stop at the school gates. Oh no. It followed him home, and as we'll soon discover, led to some hilarious episodes and heartwarming moments in the Bumblebee household. Billy was a friendly boy, with a heart as warm as a summer's day and a smile as bright as the sun. He longed to make friends, to share laughter and adventures with pals of his own. But making friends when your bottom played its own tune, often at the most inopportune moments, was a challenge. Take Billy's first attempt at making a friend in Whirlwindyville Elementary, for example. He had spotted a boy named Timmy who also loved stories and adventure. They had bonded over tales of pirates and knights during recess. As they laughed and chatted, Billy had felt a hopeful flutter in his heart. Could he finally have a friend who looked beyond his musical farts? But just as he was about to ask Timmy if he wanted to be friends, his traitorous tummy tooted a triumphant tune. Timmy's eyes widened in surprise, and then he burst out laughing, pointing at Billy and calling him Trumpet Bum. Billy was left standing alone, his hope deflated like a popped balloon. Despite such experiences, Billy never stopped trying. He bravely faced each day, each bout of laughter, each new nickname, hoping to find someone who would see him for who he was, not Billy Trumpet Bum, but Billy Bumblebee, a boy full of kindness, courage, and yes, a symphony of farts. But would Billy ever find such a friend? Ah, dear reader, that's a question that only time, and a few more chapters, can answer. As Billy navigated the ups and downs of friendship and flatulence, another story was unfolding at home, a story full of love, laughter, and a family trying their best to help their son. Life in the Bumblebee household was never dull, thanks to Billy's tuneful toots. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Bumblebee, had grown used to their son's symphonic sounds, whether it was the trumpet-like toot at the dinner table or the drum-like rumble as a morning wake-up call. Mrs. Bumblebee, a cheerful lady with twinkling eyes and a kind heart, would often chuckle and shake her head at Billy's melodious mishaps. She had a knack for turning embarrassing moments into light-hearted ones, making Billy feel less self-conscious about his unusual problem. When Billy's farts interrupted a quiet family dinner, Mrs. Bumblebee would clap her hands and say, "Well, that's one way to start a dinner conversation." Mr. Bumblebee, a jolly man who could find the funny side of any situation, was always there to support Billy. He often reminded Billy that everyone was unique in their own way, and that Billy's unique feature just happened to be a little louder than most. Despite the laughter and light-heartedness, the Bumblebees were keenly aware of Billy's struggles. They tried all sorts of remedies to cure Billy's musical flatulence, from old wives' tales to exotic diets. There was even a time when they invited a so-called flatulence whisperer to their home. The man, a tall, thin character with a long beard and a serious face, claimed he could talk the flatulence out of anyone. Of course, that didn't work, but it provided the Bumblebees with a good laugh and a story to tell. Through it all, the Bumblebee family remained a pillar of support for Billy. They loved him, trumpet tummy and all, and never let him forget that. While Billy faced his share of challenges, he always had a safe and loving home to return to, a place where he was accepted and cherished just as he was. But despite the love and support of his family, Billy still yearned for something more. He yearned for acceptance, for friendship, for a chance to show the world that he was more than just Billy Trumpet Bum. While Billy's flatulence was often a source of embarrassment, every cloud, no matter how flatulent, has a silver lining. For Billy, this silver lining came in the most unexpected form during the annual Whirlwind talent show. Now, Billy loved the talent show, where the townsfolk of Whirlwindyville showcased their various talents. He had always watched from the sidelines, cheering for the performers, but never daring to join them. His unique talent, after all, was not something that could be easily showcased. However, this year was different. The show was in full swing, with the town baker juggling pies and the librarian, Mrs. Shush, surprisingly performing a rock and roll number. Then, during a particularly quiet moment as the next performer was setting up, Billy's traitorous tummy decided to join the show. It let out a loud, trumpet-like fart that echoed through the hall. Billy was mortified, ready to sink into the floor. But then, something surprising happened. Instead of the usual laughter and pointing, there was applause. The townsfolk of Whirlwindyville were clapping, some even standing up to cheer. The fart, it seemed, had been perfectly timed, a hilarious interlude in the silent wait. Mrs. Bumblebee, tears of laughter in her eyes, pulled Billy into a hug. "You see, my dear," she said, "even your farts have a talent for making people smile." That night, Billy went to bed with a small smile on his face. For the first time, his musical farts had brought joy instead of embarrassment. It was a small victory, but for Billy, it was a glimmer of hope, a sign that maybe, just maybe, his flatulence could be more than just a problem. Could this be the turning point for Billy? Could his tuneful toots truly become a talent? Ah, dear reader, That's a question for the next chapter. For now, let's leave Billy in his dreams, where the sounds of applause still echo, a sweet melody to his symphony of farts. Be sure to join us for the next chapter, An Unusual Talent, where Billy's music teacher, Miss Harmonica, discovers the musical quality of Billy's farts. If you're new to the channel, check out some of our other stories, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our fantastic tales. Goodbye!